Stand to one side. It's good to see. It's good to see many people here, and it's good to be here today. Many of you know me and my wife Caroline. Have been with Tom and Leslie, part of the church, since the very beginning, and seen it grow from a few of us in a living room to what it is today. It's been an amazing journey over 6 years, and. If you are here very often in the church, you'll realize or notice or acknowledge that we don't often talk about money very much in church. We try not to. It's been something that we felt we've shied away from a little bit as leaders, and just not wanting to try and coerce. We're very aware that there's many churches out there that just talk about, that's all they talk about is money. And we didn't want to be that church that only talked about money. But equally, we just don't want to be the church that never talks about it either. And we don't want to be a church that avoids difficult subjects. We want to approach things that people can kind of squirm in your seats to talk about sometimes, or think this is a bit awkward. So we're going to go for it. We're doing 3 weeks on giving, and not just giving, but being rich, and a lifestyle of generosity, a culture of generosity, which is what Jesus has done for us. And our heart in this church is that we would extend what we have here to the whole borough, to all the people that we meet in every different sphere of life. We want to demonstrate and show and pass on the generosity of Jesus wherever we go. And the more that you guys and us guys invest in what we have here, the Croydon Vineyard vehicle of the kingdom of God, the more it then enables more stuff and more places and more lives to be reached and touched by Jesus. So that's kind of a heads up sort of thing where we're heading with all of this. I don't know how many of you in the room would consider yourself to be rich. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. But maybe one or two of you might think, well, yeah, I'm quite wealthy, really, as it goes. I probably, some of you think I'm not wealthy at all. I'm the exact opposite of that. And I mean, that's something else that we love as much as the diversity of culture in the church. God has given us a diversity of economic diversity. We've got very wealthy people, and we've got incredibly poor people. We have asylum seekers amongst us. We have just all kind of manner of, we have homeless people that come to our evening service regularly. We're reaching all different aspects, and we love it, and we want to do more of it. And so you might think, well, I'm not rich, but and again, this won't count for a lot of us, but some of us in the room. If you earn £25,000 a year, then you're in the top 1% worldwide. That is 99% of the world's population earn less than you if you earn 25 grand a year. It's quite a sobering reality, isn't it? That the wealth of our nation, although comparatively, when we think, am I rich, am I not rich, we're looking at the other people around us. But when we start to look on a world stage, we recognize actually, even if we don't have very much, even if we earn less than £25,000 here, maybe we earn half that, or less than that. We're still comparatively, in terms of opportunity and many different things, we're rich on a world scale, on a world sense. And everyone wants more money, right? All of us do. There's never quite enough, because we start to live to our means. Whatever we have, we kind of we expand our horizons a little bit. If we get a pay rise, we kind of start to live into that pay rise. And it's just a natural thing. It's what we all do. Money can be an amazing blessing, but it can also bring a curse. I don't know if you remember Notorious B.I.G., Puff Daddy, Mo Money, Mo Problems. Anyone remember that? It was one of my teenage, I won't sing it to you, but money can bring problems. A few years ago, I was working in my job before I left about 4 years ago. And I'd been there as a designer for 5 years. It was a graduate job. I worked as a designer for 5 years in that job, and it was going well. And I had favour in the company. I was sort of promotion opportunity, and they asked if I wanted to step out of being a designer and into project management. And this was like a big step up in terms of responsibility and stress and expectation. but it should have come with it a reasonable step up in terms of salary as well. And so I was kind of phased into the job, and I'd been doing the new job of project manager for the best part of a year. And we were coming up to Christmas, and I think it was around Christmas time, they would always announce if you were getting a pay rise or if there was a bonus available. And so I was going into this time just before Christmas, fully expecting a 20% pay rise in my salary, because that's what it was. That's what the sort of, you moved up from what a designer level was to the bottom end of a project management. It was a 20% pay rise. I thought, this is amazing. We're starting to, Caroline was pregnant with Toby, our first child, and she was about to go on maternity leave, and we thought that's going to kind of help with the shortfall. It's going to balance things out a bit, and we were trying to be careful and planning. And I went into, we were all called in. They had an all-employees staff meeting just before Christmas, and you get one of those and you think, oh dear, what's happening here? And they announced a company-wide 10% pay cut in order to, this is not too long after the financial crisis and stuff, in order to try and save jobs, not make redundancies. They announced 10% pay cut for everybody. And so I'd been going in there expecting a 20% pay rise. I ended up with a 10% pay cut. And I remember cycling home that day just thinking, God, what are you doing? What's that about? We're about to have a baby. Things are already getting tight. And trying to honor you. We'd received lots of good teaching in the past about giving ourselves. And we tried to put down a marker in our own marital life and with our finances that we're going to give to the Lord. We're going to give and commit to give. And so we'd been doing that faithfully, and we wanted to continue doing that, but then we got this pay cut. And so I was cycling home, get 3/4 of the way home, got a flat tire. And I was just like, God, what a day. Does it get any worse than this? And so I'm walking home with the flat tire in my bike and getting all the way back home. And I just felt the Lord say to me, just don't worry about it. I've got it. It's in my hands. I know what you need. Just trust me. And so, we talked about it, Caroline and I, and we prayed it through, and we resolved that we weren't going to reduce our giving. We were going to just press on through no matter what and trust the Lord. And he honored it. And he honored it. So I can stand up here today and speak to you about money with some degree of history of I know what it's like to step out of your comfort zone when it's awkward, when it's difficult, and to see God come through for me. I know what that's been like, and I've tried to persevere in that. So we just want to bring freedom. This is what the church is about. We want to bring everybody to life. And part of bringing people to life is bringing freedom from everything that would try and grab you and bind you and hold you a slave. And money is a big one. So this is maybe one of the biggest ones, pride and money. Jesus wants to just free you from it. It has power over your life. And so, not only money, but everything. You will, if you know, I just have to point out, I've got a new clicker, which I'm very excited about. So this is going to be exciting for the PowerPoint presentation today. If you've been around Vineyard Church very long, you might have heard this description. Leslie's talked about it before. Chocolate milkshake and grapefruit. See, what we believe God wants for all of us is to live a life that's more like a milkshake and less like a grapefruit with God in our life. That is, a grapefruit has compartments, as you can see. It has segments. And many people live their life like this. They say, well, this area of my life is my work life. And this is my relationships and my marriage and sex life or whatever. This is my leisure. Maybe I'm part of a football team. Maybe I like to, whatever you do in your leisure time, go to the gym. And this is my money. And so we have sort of different things almost in our compartments in our mind of different segments. And then I have my faith as another one, God. And that might include here today on a Sunday. It might include a small group during the week. But what we try and say to you, and this has been really helpful for me through my life, is that God doesn't want us to live our life that way in our headspace. He wants us to live much more like a chocolate milkshake. He wants us to be like the chocolate in the milk that just swirls its way all through and colors everything and flavors everything, so that every sphere of your life has the flavor of chocolate. It has the flavor of God in everything that you do. And this will include your marriage and your relationships and your sex life and your work life and your money life and your leisure life. Every different area of your life, God is infusing it all. And so money has if we don't get a handle on this, if we don't let God to rule our money life, like the chocolate going through it, then money will start to rule us. Now I'm going to try and show you how. This is what Jesus says. No one can serve two masters. Either you'll hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. Another translation says God and mammon, meaning material stuff, things. And to paraphrase what that means is saying, no one can serve two masters equally. You can't love one and love the other equally. If you love one a lot, then you will love the other one less. If you are dependent on one, then you will feel superior to the other. There's just a natural thing. It's just human nature that we can't love two things absolutely equally in that same way, particularly with God. And so Jesus isn't saying that money is bad and things are bad or they're not important, but just that they need to be given their rightful place in his context. And if we allow him to be in control of it all, it brings freedom to us. It takes us out of slavery to it. God wants us to recognize that we're stewards, that we're tenants, that our life is temporary here. Yeah, you may have 90. My granddad turns 90 next month. He's had a good long life. We don't know how many more days he's got, but he's done well. But that's it. When he dies, that's it for his stuff here. His money, he's not taking with him. He's just moved recently into a home. My parents are here today. They've been helping and doing so much for that. And I know others of you in the church are in this position trying to help elderly parents. But when they move out of their home, all their possessions, what's going to happen to them? All the stuff that we've acquired for our whole life, that we kind of forget. I've got a load of stuff in my parents' loft still, and in mine that I don't know what's there. At some stage when you're gone, somebody's got to sort through all that stuff that you've acquired, and then it'll probably mostly go to charity or the tip. The value that you've placed on your stuff all this time won't have the same value after you've gone to be with Jesus. And so we need to recognize that all this stuff that we've got here, including our money, is just temporary. Whatever money you've acquired your whole lifetime, you might have a big pot of it by the time you die. But when you're gone, somebody else, maybe your children or, the cat's home or something, may get that money and misuse it. And it will be such a waste, but you won't know anything about it because it wasn't yours to hold on to forever. It's just entrusted to you for a while. It's like you're a leaseholder rather than a freeholder. With a property, you could buy the leasehold, you could buy the freehold. The leasehold is just temporary. It's for a period of time. The freehold is forever. But God is the freeholder of your stuff. That's what I want to say to you. And you're just a leaseholder of it. He's entrusting things to you. Let me move on. I want to get a little bit practical with us in a minute, but King David said many years ago, when they took a big collection from all the people of Israel because they were going to build the temple after David died. He knew it wasn't going to be him. And so he gathered the money in anyway for his son to do with, and he trusted it to his son. And it was just amazing, the generosity that was shown from the leaders of Israel at that time and Judah. And David said this, he says, "Who am I and who are my people that we should be able to give as generously as this? Everything comes from you, and we have given you only what comes from your hand." Yeah. This is a recognition of the stuff that we have is only given to us from God in the first place. He gives us breath, he gives us life, he gives us family, he gives us community, he gives us food. Everything we have is a gift from God. And when we get our heads around that, it makes us a bit less holding on to the stuff that we have in our possession, and a bit more free to just say, okay, it's yours anyway, Lord. It's yours anyway. Jesus said this, do not store up for yourselves treasure on earth where moths and vermin destroy, where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And so again, it's just a recognition that, what you generally, where your treasure is, that is where you put your money, reflects where your heart is. If your money is stored and stored and stored up and never sort of released into blessing, then it shows something about what your heart is like. If you're open with your stuff, it demonstrates what your heart is like. If you share what you have. And we want to be a people of generosity, all of us. And this is our call to you, to live this way, as we try to as well. So I want to give a little bit of practical stuff to help us get our head around this. So I would say that a typical view, and I have to confess, I've stolen a lot of this material from a man called Andy Stanley, who's a very good teacher, and this has helped me a lot for myself. So if you want to hear a better version of this talk, then go and look him up. But a typical Western view of handling money would go a little bit like this. So somebody that's not a follower of Jesus. My life is centered on me. So when I get some money, when I go to work and I do my work, I work hard and I earn my money and I get it, it comes to me, yeah? And so when I get my income, the first thing I'm going to do is this. I'm going to live. And so my living is like this. I need to pay for my housing, maybe my rent or my mortgage. I need to pay for my food and my clothes. I need to pay for a car if I have one, or travel to work and around. I need to pay for my mobile phone, my internet, my leisure activities, all my stuff. I need to pay for all those things, yeah? This is normal. This is just a normal person who handles their money fairly sensibly. Second thing they'll do when they get their income, they know what they need to live, so they've worked all that out. Next thing they're going to do, save. So I've got my money that I know I need to spend, or I'm going to spend, or I've already spent. If there's anything left at the end of the month, I'm going to put a portion of it away to save, because I want to be wise with my money. I want to be prudent. So there may be sort of an annual insurance to pay on your car or your home, or there may be Christmas I need to save up to pay for the kids, or a holiday I might like to go on, or pension for the future, just a rainy day thing. I want to save. I want to be careful with my money. So I'm going to, first of all, going to live. I know what I need for all my monthly outgoings, and I'm going to save. Now, I also just want to be really generous with my life. So if there's anything left at all at the end of the month, after I've lived, done everything for me that I need to do, and after I've saved some for the future, then I really do want to be generous. So I'm going to give something away as well. And so, after I've taken my stuff and savings, then I'll be generous to other people. And that might be charities, might be giving to a homeless person on the street as you walk past, or something else that you feel led to give to. So I think this is a typical viewpoint of using your income. This is what I want to suggest is and should be a disciple of Jesus view of your income as it comes. You're not the center of your life anymore. God is. When you step into faith and salvation with Jesus, you release yourself to God. You say, I'm not my own anymore. I was bought at a price. This is what the Bible says. And so he owns me. And so he is now the center of my world. And so when I work hard and I get my income, it's God's anyway, because he gave it to me. He gave me my job. He gave me the skills. He gave me the opportunity. It belongs to him. So when I get my money in at the start of the month, first thing I'm going to do is give. That's like the first thing. If you read through the Bible, you'll see this through the Old Testament, particularly Deuteronomy, Leviticus, and different books. It talks about a tithe. That was when they were farming, caring for the land, they would take the first fruits of what they got, what they harvested, the first tenth of what they got, and they would bring it in and they would give it to the priests and the temple for them to manage the money. Book of Malachi talks about, it says, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, so the whole 10%, so that, it will bless you, and see if I don't bless you back when you bring the whole tithe in. And the storehouse, my understanding, Tom's understanding, I think as a church, our understanding of storehouse is the place you go to get your food. And if you consider yourself part of Croydon Vineyard Church, we would say this should be the place you're coming to get your food, not your spiritual food. You're coming here to drink, on God and to eat on God. And this is what we're aiming for. Now, bear with me. A lot of people are wriggling in their seats right now and got frowns on your faces. But this is what we're saying is, this is where we want to head for. And maybe you're not anywhere near this right now, but I just want to say this is Bible. I'm not making this stuff up. This is Bible. The next thing that we want to do is be moved by compassion. So you might have a friend or a family member, or you might see an advert or something for a particular charity or cause, and your heart might be moved and stirred towards it, and you might just think, God, I want to give to that, I want to sow into that, I want to invest in that. And so we'd love to say, do that, invest in that. That's God moving your heart in compassion. Do that, whatever you're able to do. Hospitality, just living a lifestyle of hospitality. Invite people over for food, drinks, and share your life with them. And just generous lifestyle in general. Don't be the person at the table who is quibbling over the last penny, over a dinner, over a meal, or don't be the last one to get your wallet out. We want to be people who just live a lifestyle of generosity in all that we do. This can feel quite heavy, this stuff, but what I want to say to you is it brings freedom. It really does. Next thing we're going to do after we've given is save. So we want to give. So we get our income and we're saying, look, the first thing I do is acknowledge that God, you gave it all to me anyway. And the second thing I want to do is try to create some margin in my life so that I'm not depending on other people as much as is with my possibility. And many of you, you're not able to do that for various reasons. But as much as it's possible, we'd love you to think, how can I be a bit careful for the future so that when something difficult comes up in my life, I have a little bit of a buffer. I have something. And when you have that buffer, and over time as it begins to grow, you might find yourself in a different situation where you see a cause and you're moved by compassion and you think, I'd love to give into that, but I've got nothing in my current account. But then you might think, but I do have something in my savings that I've put away to one side for a rainy day, and yet maybe that's the Lord telling me to do that. So we want to give first, we want to save second, and finally we want to live with the rest. We give first, we save second, we live on the rest. Can you see it's flipped around from a world viewpoint? We want to live within a budget, live within our means. We know what we sort of isolate, we ring fence an amount of money that we know is comfortable for us to live in after we've given and after we've saved some. And this, if you can live this kind of lifestyle, and I've over time been able to put these principles in my own life and finances, it just makes such a massive difference to the freedom that you have in money. You're not being held down by money. You're not having to worry about money every single day in the same way. Now, please hear me. I'm not saying that everybody has loads of money and it's just easy for everyone. It may be really hard for you, and again, I want to address some of that. You might say to me, well, let me just flick on so you can see the difference. So this is the difference between, you see, worldview, and what I'm saying is a Jesus follower view of how we handle our money. You might say, well, Phil, that's good if you got money, but I don't have any. Let me just say this. God doesn't want 10% of your money. He wants 100% of your heart. He doesn't need your money. He doesn't need your wallet. He wants your heart. He cares about your heart. He cares about just having, he wants to be Lord of all, not just Lord of Sundays. He wants to be Lord of everything. He wants to be like the chocolate and the milkshake. And so, you might think 10% just seems so out of reach to me to give anything like that to God. Just start with your heart. Just start by saying, Lord, I want to serve you. I want to put you number one before everything else in my life. And he'll start to change you. When you open yourself to him like that, he'll start to change you, and then he'll start to show you ways where you can create some margin to give. You might just begin with, Lord, I want to start here, but I don't know where to begin. And I say, well, what's one thing in your life right now that you spend money on that you might go without or you might cut down on? Just to create a little bit of space. You might say to me, well, I just don't really know. I'm not very good at handling finances. It all seems very simple when you put it up like that. But, when I've got all my money and my income in and my outgoings, and it's all very confusing to me, and it all goes over my head, and I just get in a panic. And many of us are a bit like that with finances. I would just love to say, Michael and Hillary and Grant and Robin, who are under the church, these guys are amazing. We've run CAP money courses, which Christians Against Poverty money courses, a number of times over the last few years, and we'll be looking to do some more this year, I think. But these are great guys to come and talk to if you want some direction with some of this. But kind of in essence, the CAP money course helps you to learn how to budget with your money, to budget everything that you have. And it begins by writing down all of your income on one side of a piece of paper, and then all of your outgoings on the other side. And you say, how does it weigh up? Is my income more than my outgoings? Hopefully it is. Hopefully it is. But if your outgoings are more than your income, then you're living a lifestyle of debt. And you need to somehow begin to balance those books and hopefully create some margin the other way around. And so you'll begin with that. And it might be that, practically that might mean you start to go to a different supermarket or the market to buy your shopping. It might mean that you have to cancel your Netflix or your Spotify subscription. It might be that you have to change your phone contract, or you might need to look at different energy suppliers or internet suppliers. You might need to buy less coffee, not on the way to work and back every day, but take some from home. You might need to take a packed lunch with you to work instead of going out and buying it from the cafe every day. You might need to cancel your Sky TV subscription. There's many different ways that we, on the face of it, we think, I've got all these outgoings. But when we start to put God number one in front and center of everything, he starts to show you that those other things are peripheral. They're less important than him. You might say to me, well, I'd love to give, but I've got a lot of debt. I'm in a lot of financial debt, so never mind all my monthly outgoings, I've also got a whole load of debt repayments, and I've got people knocking on the door and letters coming in every day. And if that's you, and you're just not even opening letters because you're scared, because you're just worried about what's going to happen. Again, Christians Against Poverty offer an amazing debt help and counselling service. They can help you to work your way out of debt and into freedom of being in the black instead of the red. We can help, again, if you talk to people at the information desk, we can point you in the directions for those. You might say to me, well, I'd love to give, but I'm unable to work. I'm too ill, or I don't have a work permit, or I don't have, I'm too old to work. There's a guy in the church, I don't know how many of you know him, don't know if he's here today, but Irish Trevor. And are you here, Trev? He's with the kids, okay, good. That's good, he's noisy. Irish Trevor, if you've met him, you won't miss him. He's a lovely guy. And Trevor was diagnosed with mouth cancer or throat cancer a couple of years ago, and went through a lot of treatment for the cancer, and he had to give up work in the process, and went through all chemo and radiotherapy. And it was just devastating for his body. He wasn't able to eat. He's still not able to eat all the food that he used to. Can't eat anything spicy or things now. But during the road to his recovery, despite not being able to work, since he's kind of been getting a bit more strength back, he's just started to serve. He started to give. So every week, Trevor makes up sandwiches for all the students at our English classes that we run at Croydon Library. He makes up about 100 sandwiches or something, and then he drives them down and hands them over to the team. He serves at the English class on a Friday as part of the team. Many people, maybe some of you here, have benefited from him coming and giving you a lift with helping shift furniture, or coming in and doing some cleaning in your house, or all kinds of things. Trev's just been he's been giving himself. He's not had an income to give financially, but he's had time, and he's got skills, and he just wants to do something to serve. And maybe that's you. Maybe you just don't have any money coming in, but there's a way that you can still give of yourself to the Lord, like this. God loves you abundantly, and he's abundantly generous to us. And he wants you to know freedom. Where are we? Oh, my clicker's stopped. Oh, that's disappointing. Could you click it on one, Paul, for us? Oh, hang on. Where are we? Okay, that'll do. So God he's not bothered about bottom lines, he's bothered about percentages. So that is, he cares that, he doesn't care if you give £1,000 to church, or £5 to church, or £1 to church. It's proportionate to what you have, right? When Jesus saw the widow in the temple and she gave just a coin, he said she put in much more than the others who put in bags of cash, because she out of her poverty gave all she had, but they gave in out of their wealth. He just cares about percentages. He wants 100% of your heart. And if he has 100% of your heart, you're going to find that bit by bit, your percentage of giving your money goes up. It might creep up from 1%. If you've got no cash, start at 1%. If you earn £500 a month, if your income is £500 a month, see if you can manage 1% of that to give to the Lord. And if you start with that, then over time you might think, okay, actually I'm saving some money here or there, and I'd like to actually give a bit more. And when the Lord has 100% of our hearts, it won't be a struggle as to what we're giving back to him. It will just be natural. It will be overflow for us. It will be, I want to give more. Help me give more. Give me more so I can give you more, Lord. Like a parent that's giving their child money so that the child can buy them a Christmas present. It's all from him anyway. It's his money. So it's our hearts. It's not anything else. He cares about percentages, not the bottom line, not the amount in the end. This is the Apostle Paul talking to Timothy in the churches. He says, command them, the people in the churches, to do good, to be rich, but rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. This is our command. This is Paul's command, and Jesus' command to all of us is we must be rich in generosity in every way that we can be, whether that's with cash or with time or with skills or whatever. And this is what he says elsewhere in Corinthians. He says, now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed, and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way, so that you can be generous on every occasion. And through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. The more that we release ourselves to the Lord and release our resources to him, he will bless us. It might not all be financial blessing. We're not a church that says if you invest, £100 in at the front, we're going to ask everyone to come and do it now, then God's going to give you back tenfold next week. We're not a church saying that. That's not the gospel. But he does bless us. He does promise to bless us in every way, just in so many different ways in life. And as I said earlier, I can testify to that. The more I've invested in God, the more he's blessed me. So I think this is the essence of it. It starts with God. And can you see this? God, he gave himself, first of all, for you, to save you from your sin and from death, so that you could live with him. This is the essence of the gospel for all of us. It's the same thing. God, it starts with God. We need to start back with God. We need to respond like that. It starts with him first. He came, he gave himself for you to save you from your sin so that we could live. And this is the message we just want to bring to this whole town. And the more that we as people, myself and all of us, invest and put money in that thing, or set up direct debits, or whatever it might be. Maybe you're sitting on a whole pile of cash and you've thought, I don't know what I'm going to use this for one day. Maybe it's for the kingdom. Maybe it's for, in a couple of weeks' time, 24th of February, we're going to be, and we're giving you a bit of a heads up now, but we're going to be taking an offering for just what is God going to do through this church in our town for the future. It might be property. It might mean that we could buy somewhere that we can use more effectively for our work in the community. It might be, just to invest in more people on a staff team that can resource and do things with youth, or in schools, or there's just so many possibilities that just feel like they're there if we had the resource. There's just so much that this could expand what God is doing here, and we want to invest in it. This is why we came to Croydon in the first place, and the Lord has blessed us by bringing you here. And it's not about money for us, it's about him. It's about the kingdom. It's just a response to what he's done for us. So that's our encouragement to you. Do you want to stand with me? I think we'll pray. We're just stewards. We don't own it. It's all his. It's all his. So I know it's not been a light-hearted message perhaps, but we're going to just ask the Lord to come and change us.